Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I'm seeing some more folks are joining in from the lobby. Hi, how's it going? Hope you're having a great Thursday today. I'm in the East Coast here in DC, and it is not raining for once, which is fantastic for me. All right, I'm seeing a lot of folks that were in the lobby are now joined. We're so excited to have you here to join us today to talk about some new features that we've launched here at Lucid. Now, while folks are joining, I would love to hear a little bit about you. We'll do a little bit of an icebreaker. Let me know what is a piece of media that you've consumed recently that you really love. It could be a movie, a TV show, a book, a podcast. For me, I'm doing a bit of a throwback. For whatever reason, my girlfriend was like, I've been getting the Marvel itch lately, so I took that and ran with it. And we've been rewatching the whole Infinity Saga. So we just watched Captain America Civil War. For TV show, I just watched Queen's Gambit a little bit ago too, and I really like that. Let me know in chat, what have you seen recently, read recently? Let's see. Last of Us, Chris. I have heard such good things. Haven't seen it yet. Lilo and Stitch, Ethan, a throwback. I love it. Christine, I've heard incredible things about The Pit. It's all online. I need to check it out. Let's see what else here. My girlfriend Rachel was just watching Sirens last night, and I was like, this show is good. It's weird. Reacher, fantastic. More Lilo and Stitch. Oh, okay, there's a new Lilo and Stitch. That's why everyone's saying that. Fantastic. I am loving these. I also love this exercise because if y'all are like, I'm rewatching the same thing over and over again, this is a great, scroll through the log, get some recommendations, and try out some new shows and movies. Thank you so much for sharing those in chat. Um, I would love to introduce ourselves as well. So my name is Christian. I'm a customer trainer on our professional services team here at Lucid. So I spend a lot of my time delivering these kinds of webinars and showing people how to use different kinds of use cases here in our product. I am also joined by my fantastic colleague, Jimmy. Jimmy, can you give us a bit of an intro today?
Yeah, good morning or afternoon, everybody. My name is Jimmy. I'm a senior product manager here at Lucid, and I work with our data consistency teams. And what that means is we focus on improving how your data is used throughout the suite and how it gets organized on the canvas.
Fantastic. Yeah, Jimmy is going to be our subject matter expert today, and he's going to show you some really, really cool things. Before we get there, though, I'd love to cover a few housekeeping items. So, first things first, everyone's top question. Yes, this webinar is being recorded. The way it's going to work is that it's going to be sent to your email within a couple days, a day or two, to the email that you use to register for this event. So keep that in mind. Check that email. In addition to that recording, you're also going to get some additional resources like links to some helpful blog posts, threads in our Lucid community, and some helpful tips and tricks related to the features that we're talking about today. Now, one thing here is that you all have already been giving us such amazing energy. Your movies, your TV shows, your books that you've been watching or reading. Please don't let the energy stop there. If you have any questions at all, please go through and ask those. Now, I ask that you leverage our Q&A feature in Zoom. So that's going to look like that little chat box with the question mark at the bottom. That is going to be the fastest way for us to answer your questions live. You're also going to see some of our experts answering your questions in the thread in the Q&A over chat as well. So we'll be answering questions throughout, in addition to some dedicated Q&A time at the very end, but don't wait for the end. Ask your question as soon as you get it. And lastly, live captions are enabled for this webinar, so please go ahead and turn those on if you'd like those. All right. Now, what are we here to talk about today? You're probably all here because you've used Lucid, you've heard about Lucid, and you know just how flexible and adaptive it is. Lucid is not just limited to one application either. We have two different tools and a universal canvas where you can jump back and forth between different documents so you can document your best ideas and also visualize your most complex problems. This could be adding a bunch of sticky notes in a brainstorming session, or using our data connections to visualize and gain data insights with different kinds of flowcharts. Now, I don't know if you're anything like me, you might like delivering content or learning about content, but you may not be the best designer. At least I'm not the best content designer. So sometimes for me, it can feel a little tricky to kind of take the work that I do and figure out the prettiest way, the most polished way to present it, whether that's a document I create or a brainstorming session that I'm generating. So this particular feature or set of features that Jimmy has to show for us today have really helped me, and I'm hoping they're going to help you as well to give you a fast and easy way to make your boards and diagrams as polished and professional looking as possible in a short amount of time. Now, before we get too far into these features, I'd love to set the scene for how the material that we're going to share today is going to improve your Lucid experience. And Jimmy, I'd love for you to share some of those benefits with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So today is all about talking through a collection of organizational features that we've built that we're calling assisted layout. And so these are features that are meant to give you an efficiency boost by automating a bunch of the canvas layout work that you previously had to do manually. So this, we're hoping, will give you more time to spend on the things that actually matter, which is focusing on your diagramming or brainstorming content and less time spent meticulously tweaking or rearranging your board to get things looking just right. An assisted layout can also help with maintaining defined styling rules and standards. And this means higher polished content, greater visual consistency across your work, and a more impactful end result in general. And this is especially important when it comes to crafting project documentation or sharing your work with stakeholders. So these features also just go beyond making your visuals look good. Lucid can also help you and your team make sense of brainstorms and other Canvas data, so it's easier to take action. And overall, these features will enable you and your teams to effectively organize and leverage the content that you create in the Lucid Suite.
Well, that sounds like a fantastic deal, almost like it's too good to be true, but it's not, I promise. And Jimmy, I think that's a lot of presentation. I'd love to get into the demonstration. Can we see how these features work in real time?
Absolutely. Let's hop into it. So these are brand new features, and I'm going to cover a couple examples to highlight how they work. And we're going to be working from this Lucid document to provide like a guided tour for you guys. And we're sharing a link in chat right now if you want to work through these examples together. If you just want to watch, that's totally cool. We are going to make this board and a summary board available after the webinar so you can come back and explore more later. So first, let's start by showing assisted layout's power with cleaning up a slightly disorganized diagram. So imagine you're pulled into a meeting last minute, or your manager needs to present this to their manager, and the content might not be completely ready. Christian, I'm sure we've never had this problem before.
No, we this has happened all the time. The content maybe isn't ready in the way that we want it to be. I remember one time I was working with a customer that wanted to deliver a flowchart kind of presentation to their stakeholder, and they were scrambling, spending the last 30 minutes trying to put everything together. And it ultimately ended up going well, thankfully, but they had to put in a lot of manual work to get there. So I'm hoping that we have a way to be able to show this and do this a bit more automated. And you're doing it right now, Jimmy, as well. But if you could zoom in a little bit more, just so folks can see certain parts of the diagram, I'm seeing some feedback there in chat as well.
Yeah. So let me know in chat how long people think this would take to clean up manually. If you had to get this to, the level of polish or quality that you would feel comfortable sharing out.
Oh, geez. I mean, for me, Jeff, you are a king. If this is 10 minutes for you, this would take me like an hour.
1 to 2
Maybe an
hours.
hour and a half, couple hours.
Yeah, I would definitely not want to have to like clean this up with any type of time pressure or someone looking over my shoulder. But let's see how easy this is to clean up with assisted layout. And we can get this looking a little bit more polished with just a few clicks. So I'm going to start by selecting the container, and it pops open the right-hand panel. And we have this new area called assisted layout in the layout tab in the properties panel. So pay attention to the shapes and lines when I click this button. So one thing to note is the shapes have automatically aligned and all your lines have updated to take more direct paths and minimize intersections and overlaps with the canvas content. So this is already kind of like magic. I will never get tired of this. But if you wanted to create more space, maybe things are a little too crunched, you can increase your horizontal spacing or your vertical spacing between shapes. And you can also increase the padding that you have between the shapes and the container, both horizontally and vertically. And then finally, if you wanted to move content around, you can notice that the lines will automatically reroute as well to update their paths and just keep things a little organized, a little more organized to improve legibility in the diagram. So before assisted layout, these are things that you would have to change manually. And that would mean tweaking the layout of each shape and each line individually. But with assisted layout today, you can do all of this and more with just a click.
Wow, that is fantastic. I know I'm not the only one. There's tons of people in chat that are like love or yes or this is fabulous. I especially like how the lines, that was one of my biggest things before this feature, automatically snap to where they need to be. So this has been absolutely phenomenal. Jimmy, I'm getting like 5 people in chat asking, can we just please go back one step to what we just clicked on? How do we get to assisted layout one more time?
So if you have a default container type on the canvas, you just have to select it and it'll open up the right-hand panel. It's the properties panel. And in the layout tab, you'll have this new assisted layout section. And we can move forward. I can show a next example how you can get started with this.
Yes, please. And for anyone that missed a couple things, remember we are going to have this recording made available for everyone too, in addition to some help articles. But yeah, Jimmy, show us what's next.
Yeah. So now I just want to show you how you can get started from scratch to get this going, even simply. Um, if you start creating a diagram with assisted layout, we can avoid the previous situation altogether. And if you begin diagramming from the start using assisted layout, your work can be ready to present or share out at any point in its design cycle. So the way you can get this going, and I have a swim lane out here, but it works with any of our default container types in Lucidchart and Lucidspark. We're going to pull out a swim lane. I have one here already, but notice when you pull out or select any of the default containers, your panel opens. And on the right, you have this entry point for assisted layout and this blue button, apply assisted layout. So if you click that, now your container is ready to organize any shape that you put inside of it. So as you pull things in, the container will size to fit the content that you're dropping in. And you'll notice we have these drop zones here. The shaded areas are places where the object or shape in question will just drop right into space, into its space. And these insertion bars indicate where you will be adding new rows or new columns in the diagram. And if people are wondering where we got this shape bank from, this is a relatively new feature that if you have shape libraries loaded in your shape panel, you can just pull that out right onto the canvas and it will load a shape bank. And so now these can be right where you need them to pull content straight into your diagram. And so all of your shapes are automatically aligned. They're dynamic and responsive to stay aligned no matter what size they are. And again, as you add lines out of or to different shapes, you'll see that these lines automatically route to avoid overlap and intersection with the things that you have on the canvas and also distribute themselves along the shape perimeter or the shape side to keep things looking neat. And now if I move this shape, you'll see that these connected lines will automatically reroute themselves, again, to just make the diagram more legible. And so this is already pretty cool, but I did promise that we were going to help you with automating things. I mean, you could look at this and you could say that, this still feels like a lot of work, but we have you covered there too. because I want to show you a feature that I absolutely love, and that's AI generated diagrams. And so this is a great way to get a head start on new projects. You can use AI to generate entire diagrams from scratch with just a description. And this is something that helps you get started faster and keep the momentum going as you're getting your thoughts down on the canvas.
Wow, I mean, this is excellent. Jimmy, we're seeing so many different exciting comments about AI generation, and especially those lines and the containers as well. Before we move forward, we're getting a really popular question here. Can you confirm, in order to do assisted layout, do we need a container like a frame or a swim lane present?
I will hit that later in this demo. You can apply assisted layout on the canvas for objects that are just on the canvas, but for some of the specialized features we're showing, like the drop zones and the line routing, that is limited to the containers only right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and I can't wait for later in the demo. One more thing I say is gonna say as well, folks, is that if you have any questions, please go through and put those in the Q&A. It's gonna be the best way for us to determine like which one is, whoa, this is really cool versus I have an actual question. And Jimmy, we're talking about all these AI features. A couple of things here for folks as well. AI features are going to be generally available to all types of licenses, but if you don't see this in your screen, it's possible your Lucid administrator hasn't enabled it for you. So if you're experiencing any issues here, please reach out to your Lucid admin and see if you can get an AI enabled. But Jimmy, take it away. What can we do here?
Yeah, great reminder, Christian. Thank you. For people who have this feature enabled, you can come down to this AI Sparkle icon, generate diagram. You click that, and it's going to open up this little AI panel. And I already have something populated, but this gives you an option to describe the type of diagram that you want to generate, and then Lucid will render that on the canvas for you. For this example, I'm going to choose from the several different types of diagram types we support. I'm going to go down to database schema. And here at the bottom, we have example prompts that you can load. I'm going to choose this first one for an entity relationship diagram. When I click this, it populates this text box with a description of a kind of ERD. And what you can do is this is a great way to get started, see an example of how these things are written, edit this to match your needs, but you might not know what you need to specify, or you're not really sure on all the details. Well, we have this enhanced prompt feature that when you turn it on, will analyze the description and will add additional content that we think is helpful, either for your use case or diagram type. And so once you look that over and you're happy with kind of what's described or what the goal of this diagram is, you can click Generate, and Lucid will take that text description and automatically render the entity relationship diagram directly to the canvas. And when it does so, it automatically has assisted layout enabled. And so these are things that let you move your content around, maintain structure and order. You can also see that the lines are automatically updating as you move your content. And you also get these spacing handles as well. So you can make sure that things are arranged the way that you would like.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic. I love our generative AI features that you can use here. And I love how it's already having assisted layout applied. One big tip I have for everyone is if you are in the process of visualizing your processes from a document repository or anything like that, just copy paste those step-by-step instructions. And if you have this feature enabled, put it in the generate diagram box. And it's a great way to save some time. And of course, you can make edits afterwards. But what else can we do here, Jimmy?
So everything I've been talking about so far has been about creating diagrams, but that's just part of the diagramming process. There's also a lot of feedback and iteration as part of that life cycle. So I want to take a little bit of time now to talk about how easy assisted layout makes gathering and implementing feedback. So for this example, let's pretend that you've brought a diagram to your team or stakeholders, and they have a bunch of feedback for you. And if you guys are anything like me, you may have forgotten a couple things. So, for instance, it's not uncommon to maybe miss a step. And so, with assisted layout, you can just add that and drop it right in, and it will automatically insert itself into the flow. You don't need to bother about hooking things up. You may also have gotten steps in the wrong order. Here, process D should come before E. With assisted layout, you can just drag and drop and use that as a way to switch the order of your blocks without needing to disconnect and reconnect the lines. And then also, uh, it's possible that you may have forgotten an entire branch of a diagram and someone wants to add their portion or correct something that's already there. Well, with assisted layout, you can bulk select, drag, and drop right into place. And this new part of the diagram is automatically aligned. And also within assisted layout, you can also just bulk move and all of this stuff updates and it stays neat and looking good.
Yo, this is amazing. I don't know how long you've been using Lucid for. I've been at Lucid for about 2 years now, and to think that this is a feature now when it wasn't before, I used to spend so much time manually changing things. Now, Jimmy, you mentioned kind of leaving feedback, and I know sometimes that can be tricky. One kind of issue I have together is, if I'm doing these in assisted layout and I put the feedback in, then it kind of thinks the feedback is part of the diagram itself, or it changes the diagram. Is there a way that we can maybe connect feedback directly to a shape?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm very excited to announce this feature that we have. Oftentimes, especially in the beginning when creating diagrams, you'll share it out, you'll get a bunch of feedback, you'll update part of the diagram, and now the diagram's moved. And maybe the stickies that people left aren't in the same place as, or they're not, you lose the context because the underlying content shifts. So we have added a feature to take a sticky or any shape and bring it into an assisted layout container. And if you just hover and hold, you'll get these dashed anchor lines. And what this is a way to drop content, notes, annotations, whatever, and it sticks to the shape. And if the shape moves, your comment moves with it. So there are two ways to activate this feature. One is just hover and hold, and after a second or two, you'll get this lasso line to show you which shape or cell you are referencing when you are dropping your sticky. And if you don't want to wait the couple of seconds to add this, you can hold down Control on PC or Linux or Command on Mac. And this enters into your note-taking mode. And you can just drop things down. And then once they're stuck, they move with the shape.
Wow. I don't know. What do we think about that, everyone in the webinar? This is absolutely amazing for me. I put it in chat, but this is personally going to be really helpful for our retrospectives that we do in our team. I know we do our retrospectives in Lucidspark and use some Lucidchart elements. Jimmy, you've showed us a lot of different flowcharts. Do these types of features work in other types of boards or diagrams?
Yes. And to get back to the earlier audience question, if you have connected content, connected shapes on the canvas, we are able to kind of apply assisted layout to clean things up there. So this is an entity relationship diagram. If you can make a bulk selection in Lucidchart, you get this canvas hint to tidy up. This is a new feature we've enabled where you can just click and then it organizes your content to a relative grid layout. But it's not just those, it can really be any shapes on the canvas. Here's a network diagram, and we all know how gnarly these can be. You could select and you could tidy this up as well. You can also, if you want some of your changes or organization to be a little more lasting, you can wrap this in one of the container shapes. And, oh, did I pull out a container? Yes. So if you wrap your content, let's get that all in, clean that up. Then having this container selected, apply assisted layout, and now your network diagram can be organized and the lines and connections between things dynamically updated as you move stuff around to keep everything neat and organized.
Wow, this is absolutely awesome. I gotta say, there's so many cool parts about my job being able to train folks, but one of my favorite, if not my favorite parts, is when people tell me this is gonna save me so much time. And I'm seeing so many of those comments in chat. So thank you all so much, and thank you, Jimmy, for sharing these kind of Lucid chart polished visual features. But we also have other tools in our Lucid suite. I'm wondering, is this just a Lucid chart feature? You also mentioned like making sense of sticky notes and other data. Can you walk us through some additional use cases here?
Yeah, this is not just a Lucidchart feature. We all love Lucidchart. It's excellent for doing technical diagramming, process mapping, documentation of any kind. But this is also available in Lucidspark as well. So I'm going to switch over to Lucidspark. We have the universal canvas switcher in the upper left. I'm just going to drop this down. And Lucidspark is our virtual whiteboard. This is good for any free form or unstructured work, running meetings, workshops, brainstorms. And I want to show off a few things that, few ways that assisted layout can help in this context as well. So if you do any design work or collecting, synthesizing feedback, it's common to organize people's feedback, come up with some themes and categories for how to take action based on things. And then if you want to clean that up or get that ready to present, it can be really tricky. We have these alignment guides, but like it's just fidgety work to make sure that everything gets aligned correctly. But again, with assisted layout, you can come up here. We have this quick cleanup icon in the context bar, and you have the tidy up option, and that just kind of nudges everything into alignment. And if you already have content down on the canvas and organized in different categories, you can bulk select frames. You can come to the assisted layout icon, and you can apply assisted layout for all of these items as well. And just like in chart, you have the ability to have these drop zones to keep your sticky notes or anything else organized. And you also have the same spacing handles as before, so you can get these looking exactly how you want. And then last, but certainly not least, I want to show you a great feature for sorting ideas with AI. So in this example, we got a lot of ideas for how to have a team activity. And you can make a selection, come up to the AI icon, collaborative AI, and you can have it sort your ideas. And what this does is it takes a look at all the content people have provided, and then it just buckets them into categories. And here, there's a bunch of suggestions for virtual activities, games and entertainment, fitness and wellness team activity ideas. And if you want to go further, you have another option to summarize this content. When you click this, it takes a look at the content, the categories, and then it'll spit out a text summary to let you know kind of just an overview of what all was entered by your team.
Fantastic. I especially love the sorting ability in the Lucidspark collaborative AI. One way that I would really recommend to anyone here to use it is if you are in a brainstorming session or a retro, a lot of times you want to generate a lot of ideas before you get really specific. But it's really hard to do a voting session on how many, we have like 20, 30 ideas there. So what I like to do is I do what Jimmy did. I sort them all using AI, then I might do a voting session or visual activity on each of the containers that are sorted in. So I'm seeing some arts and crafts activities. I might do a voting session just for that one, or a voting session just for another one of the containers. And you're going to find better results that way as opposed to doing a voting session on 35 different ideas. So thank you so much for sharing that, Jimmy. Now, as we go back to our slides here and some of our different ways to support you with Q&A, I want to thank you for joining us. We had so many different ideas that you all shared in chat, so much excitement, and I'm hoping that you got a lot of value off of these new features that we were able to show you here today, and hopefully it does save you some time and effort. Now we're going to get into Q&A in just a second, so keep on asking your questions. Just want to do a couple plugs here. If you're interested in learning more about these features, we have some really valuable resources that we are going to send to your email. Additionally, in Zoom, there should be a little button down there in your toolbar that says resources. It looks like a stack of pages. And you should be able to click on that to be able to identify a couple helpful links and articles to navigate to as well. In those links and articles, again, this is also going to be sent to your email. We're going to have a thread to the Lucid community. The Lucid community is going to be a fantastic place to ask questions and submit product feedback ideas, especially the product feedback ideas. We need your ideas and your insight to make our product as best as it can possibly be for you. So keep an eye on those emails and some different resources. And I would love to transition our time now into Q&A. So if you have any questions that haven't been answered, please go through and put those in the Q&A now. If you asked something a long time ago and we seem to have missed it, if you could just repost your question so it's top of inbox, that'd be great for us. But let me circle back to some questions here that have been asked over the past 30 minutes or so. So, Jimmy, as these shapes are going into the assisted layout, do they maintain their aspect ratio?
Yes, they do. They'll drop in however they were grabbed, whether that's from the shape library, they'll just drop into the assisted layout container and it gets sorted based on their size. And you can also resize it once they're in that layout, and the spacing and the arrangement will dynamically update to make sure that whether it's a very small shape or very big shape, everything will stay like center aligned to the midpoint of the shape.
Fantastic. Thank you. And there's been like a lot of excitement about a couple of the different features that we showed. So I'm hoping we could just open up our demo again and show these step by step a little bit slowly. But I would love to start off with a guided walkthrough on how to open up assisted layout again from a container.
Yeah, so let's start, find a blank spot on the canvas. In Lucidchart, if you don't have the containers library open, you can come down here to more shapes, and then you'll go to flowchart shapes, expand that, and you just select the container option down here. Sometimes that is not selected. But then from your container, let's pull out, actually, let's get crazy. I'm gonna do a double brace. So if you have any of these default container types on the canvas, all you have to do is select them. And on selection, it'll pop up this right-hand panel. In the Layout tab, which should open automatically with the selection made, you'll have this Assisted Layout section in Lucidchart, and you can just click Apply Assisted Layout. And then when you mouse over, you see these spacing handles that we talked about earlier. So if I drag my flowchart shapes onto the canvas, get this shape bank going, and I drop content in, it's now going to expand to accommodate the shapes that you've put in there. And that's all you have to do in chart. And then you have spacing handles. You can change how much room everything takes up. And yeah, that's how you do that there. In Spark, you can get some sticky notes down. There are a couple ways to do this. One, you can come up here to the quick cleanup icon on this floating contextual menu, and you can tidy up. Now that just cleans things up on the canvas. That won't give you the drop zones and spacing bars. If you want that, you can come to the wrap content button, and you have an option for assisted layout here. And all that does is it throws a frame around. But you can also, let's see, you can pull out containers. So we have the Spark container type and also the frame that we just saw. And when you have these containers selected, you can come up and you'll have a button to turn on assisted layout for the frame. And now this is an assisted layout powered frame. And then likewise for this container shape, you can turn it on in the contextual menu, assisted layout. And now when you drop stuff in, it wraps to its content and you have the same insertion points and drop zones as before.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that was a really helpful walkthrough. I hope that was helpful for folks in chat. So while there's some shortcuts in Lucidspark, generally speaking, you're just going to select your layer. And if you're in Lucidchart on the right, you have assisted layout. And if you're in Lucidspark, it's going to be in that panel that pops up right above that container. Thank you so much, Jimmy. I'm getting a lot of questions about if there is any shape restriction. So for example, does assisted layout work with custom shapes? Does it work with shapes that have been imported over from Visio? Are there any other shape restrictions, or does it work for everything?
It will work for all of our default shapes. The only exception that I'm aware of right now is if you have a custom shape that is a group. So if you have like created a shape or there's a shape in a library that is a group of multiple things, we do not yet support groups in assisted layout, but the team is actively working on this. And this is going to be like the first thing that we want to get out so that people who, do a lot of work with grouped objects, they will soon be able to go into assisted layout, but not yet.
Okay, gotcha. Now, I'm curious, what would containers inside of containers in assisted layout look like? So maybe we have like a container inside of a frame and we have the assisted layout applied. Does it mess with our formatting at all? Can we do containers over other containers with assisted layout?
So we don't support containers inside of assisted layout yet, but that is coming. This is we have what we're showing now is just our V1, and we have a lot of really cool ideas planned coming forward, um, and that is one of them. The ability to have a container inside of assisted layout and to have its own grid, its own layout, separate from its parent container. And we're really excited to deliver that. You still, of course, can wrap an assisted layout container in a different container, so it can be part of a slide, for example. But yeah, the ability to put a container within a container, not yet, but we're working on it.
That's awesome to hear. Now, you're mentioning V1 and just what's available right now. So I'm curious to hear, are these features available right now? And if so, are they available across all account types, certain account types?
Yes, everything I've shown with assisted layout is available for every single user. Enterprise, free, FedRAMP, like everybody can access this today.
Awesome. And I think that actually answers a question that we saw earlier about Lucid Gov. That's our FedRAMP server. You can use these as well there. Fantastic. Um, you showed this really great walkthrough again with the assisted layout. Can we do that again with the feedback, the linking sticky notes to the process in the assisted layout?
Yes, absolutely. So if I just, start here, this works in both Chart or Spark. The one way to enter this mode is to just hover and hold. So drag I'm using a sticky note right here, but it can work with any shape. And once you're in this cell, you get this dashed line hint, and that just means that you are tagging it onto this shape. And so now I let go, and if I move this shape around, it's going to stick with that shape. And then the other way, if you don't want to wait, I'll just use a different shape here. You can hold a hotkey. I'm on a Mac, so I'm holding Command, but if you're on PC, you'll hold Control. And this just puts you in this mode that you can just hover. And the dash line is to show that it's going to be anchored to this cell. Otherwise, the dash straight line indicates that you are just going to be tagging it onto this shape. And that's the other way to enter into this mode. And you'll see that it is stuck to the shape and you can move things around.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And I hope this answers a different question by someone else about is it possible to do this with objects outside of sticky notes? And it's fantastic to see that it is. It looks like we just did that with a decision shape on a decision shape. So that's awesome. I'm curious more about some of the Spark side of things, Lucid Spark. So is assisted content, or excuse me, assisted layout available in a dynamic table, for instance?
It is not, but we've been testing this a lot internally, and we've gotten a lot of excited feedback that the ability to layer on annotations like this, it would be useful in other parts of our product, like Dynamic Table. Dynamic Table, for those people who might not be familiar, can pull one out. This gives you kind of a data-backed way to organize content. Let me get a different color here. So you can put things into a dynamic table, and I'll just have some stickies with different colors. And then this is a tool that lets you pivot and organize data based on its properties. So here I can use fill color, and now I've separated, the three stickies I had in one place in different rows in this table. But we do not yet have the ability to layer on notes into the dynamic table. You'll see if I drag it in and drop, it'll just drop into whichever cell that you've placed it on. But it does still give you a way to organize content with the same similar drop zones.
Okay. And this, by the way, for anyone that hasn't used it yet, super, super helpful for task cards. If you are integrated with Jira, Smartsheet, Asana, or you're just making your own task cards through Lucid, this is a game-changing feature. But that's a different webinar. That's a different webinar. Okay, let's see. I'm seeing some questions about that lasso tool. So can't seem to get that lasso tool to work when I hover. Is there a prerequisite to activate that feedback attachment feature?
No, you should just be able to click and drag and then hold it over the cell. Uh, the A prerequisite would be that assisted layout is turned on. And in order to check, you just select the container. If you're in Spark, this assisted layout icon should be blue. If it's not, and you click this icon, you'll have the option to turn it on, and that will give you the option. Right now, this feature, this lasso feature, is only available with assisted layout today. Um, yeah, and then also the hotkey. As you're dragging it, hold Control on PC or Command on Mac, and you should see the little dash line to indicate where that sticky will live.
Awesome. And I think, oh, that worked. Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that, Matt. And I think this is a great illustration of how the dynamic table, while it has some of that like snapping features, isn't quite the same as some of these really powerful assisted layout features. Jimmy, I'm getting some questions around assisted layout being grayed out. So is there an easy way to find out why the apply assisted layout is grayed out? And how can we identify the non-basic shapes in the layout that are causing it not to be available?
So one way this happens is if you make a bulk selection of the container and the shapes, uh, the assisted layout entry point won't show up. So if you're selecting multiple things, just try to only select the container right now. This is something we're aware of, and we are going to work on it. But that could be an issue if that is the root cause for you. Another one is if you have selected items on the canvas that aren't compatible with assisted layout, and those would be things like grouped shapes. I think maybe our divider lines. There's some edge cases of things that don't work yet with assisted layout. Right now, it is our sticky notes, our basic shapes, whether that is in Lucidspark or the shape libraries in Lucidchart. So without being able to see exactly what is selected or your specific use case, that's where I would start.
Perfect. And kind of one thing related, folks are asking about text boxes specifically. Do text boxes work for attaching that kind of maybe labeling to an object?
Let's find out. I believe it should. So here's text box. Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Wow, that's going to be so helpful for like so many customers that I've worked with personally. I'm seeing also a popular question about layers. So, how does assisted layout work or interact with layers?
It doesn't, not yet. As part of our V1, we don't have support for layers just yet, but this is something that we are looking into.
Perfect. I'm seeing a question here. Also, this is more just generally about Lucid and ADHD. So you can feel free to check out some of our accessibility resources. This is not the official stance, but me personally having ADHD, I'll say a couple things that are helpful for me are going to be the timer feature to keep us on track, as well as making our diagrams more interactive using tools like visual activities. So if you're interested in those, check out our help center. That's going to be sent to you in the email following that, and let us know if you have any questions on that. Okay, we answered basic questions, layers, compatibility. One question I'm getting, and I might be misinterpreting this one, but can we demo text within shapes alignment? So if we have text within shapes, is there a way to switch up the alignment or position of that text there?
So if I'm understanding the question, you have a shape and you can come in here and I believe you have the option to align the text within the shape and then dropping it into assisted layout. I believe that should still work. Yes,
Perfect. And if you want to get really granular at that, can we switch back to Lucidchart there, Jimmy?
definitely.
And if we select example text, and in our formatting toolbar, there's that little kind of like target icon at the top there. That should give you, it looks like a crosshair with a box. This should give you different types of position of like the shape specifically. And I think it also gives you text position on there. Unless it doesn't. No, it's just the text there. Never mind. It might be a different feature. I'll have to take a look at where I'm pretty sure you can do like exact movements of the text, but if not, I would take a look and do exactly what Jimmy did. Um, okay, we have
Since
time.
I will mention one thing that I didn't
Yes, please.
maybe make clear. These are good, the spacing handles are good for relative positionings, just since we were talking about positioning. You also have the ability in assisted layout to come and enter in specific spacing values. And these default to the document units that you've selected. I have mine in pixels. We also support centimeters or inches. But like if you want this, you don't want it to be 86, maybe you want it to be 90, you can enter those exact values and it'll respond. You also have these little, I don't know, chevrons, movement buttons, and you can individually click these as well. Um, just something cool in case people have very specific spacing requirements or like a style guide that you have to follow. You have that ability to set these and know that they are exactly correct.
Awesome. Thanks, man. I'm hoping all these both general and also really granular responses are being helpful. I'm seeing lots of great like thank yous and nice in chat. So thanks for sharing these. Let's see. I'm seeing some questions on API hooks. So will assisted layout have different kinds of API hooks? Maybe making a call that generates a diagram and puts that into assisted layout.
So for the assisted layout teams, we have not thought about an API layer for that, but I I'm not the AI PM, but I think we will or do, I'll have to check, support API interactivity for diagram generation. Don't quote me on that. I would have to check and get back to you. But yeah, hopefully that's not a non-answer. But for assisted layout, not something we thought about, but I do know that API enabled diagram generation is something that I have heard about.
Perfect. I'm seeing a few more questions here. One, this is a really common one that I think would be great to clear up as we're thinking through Lucidspark, Lucidchart. Jimmy, what's the difference between a frame and a container?
Ooh, this is kind of like everyone has their very strong opinions here. You can think, I mean, a frame is a container type that comes from Lucidspark. And this is just a way to wrap content. A container is just any shape that can hold content within it. And I hope my colleagues don't view this after the fact. And because everyone, like, containment is kind of like a tricky issue technically in the product. But for people here, it's kind of like the difference between a rectangle and a square. All squares are rectangles, not all rectangles are squares. So a frame is just what we call this shape type in Lucidspark, but containers is just kind of a general term for things that can contain other objects.
Wow, that's I haven't heard the square rectangle comparison before, and that's a really great one. I'll also call out that frames are generally going to be a really recommended container in Lucidspark because we also have capabilities to use them with things like table of contents and connecting them with presentations, sort of like how Jimmy was navigating through those different slide containers throughout our presentation today. So this is something you can do with frames specifically. But yeah, I hear you. It's a little confusing determining which container is exactly best. I feel like if I had to nutshell it, I would say frames are my go-to in Lucidspark, and then when I'm in, Lucidchart, I'm looking at swim lanes or other kinds of box containers for my workflows. Would you kind of agree with that, Jimmy?
Yeah, it's really kind of like down to the way you want to work. In Lucidchart, a lot of things, like its specialty is technical diagramming. And when people do technical diagramming, there's a lot of swim lanes. And the other different container types in general of just like the rectangle, a rounded rectangle. If you wanted, you can use assisted layout in an oval. We don't want to limit the way that you work. In Lucid Spark, this is a more free-form environment, a little more open-ended, divergent types of activities. We run meetings out of Lucid Spark all the time, and it's common to just like drop frames on the canvas. If you are talking about something and you're like, oh, what are my action items? I want to capture them in a specific part of the canvas. We'll just drop a frame in and do that. The difference is just like you have different tool sets that are available to you between the different products based on the type of work you're doing.
Yeah, man, I don't know about you all, but I love to have a technical subject matter expert show me Lucid stuff. This is great. Thanks, Jimmy. Um, one thing that I think would be interesting, I saw a question. If we go back to the connecting sticky notes and various objects to one another, is there a way to disconnect a connected object?
Yes. If they are connected, it will stay connected in this state while it is in the cell, but you can just pull it out and
Oh,
it's not connected anymore. So it's not
wow.
a permanent thing, and you can change it at any time.
Super helpful and super easy. I love that it's that intuitive. Okay. I think we have one more question here, then we're probably going to wrap up for the day. I'm seeing, can we demo how assisted layout works with swim lane containers and specifically column dividers or different types of vertical divisions?
So if I am understanding this correctly, just pulling out here, let me give space. So I think the question might involve, so turning on for swim lane, select the container, apply assisted layout, and then you can add shapes. We've seen this so far. The discussion about adding like a vertical line that spans multiple swim lanes, is that what the request is?
Yes, it sounds like.
So I don't actually know where the vertical divider is in chart. So I'm going to go over to Spark. We have these horizontal and vertical dividers. Just going to see what happens here when I drop this in. So what happens is it looks like that gets treated as its own cell. And if I extend this, it's going to extend to take up the full height. The layout algorithm interprets that as kind of like this is a shape. I'm going to make my row this big. What I think the user is requesting is a feature that we're currently working on called cell spanning. And so if I can interpret the request a little bit, shapes are great. This can be really helpful to lay out slides. But there might be cases where maybe you have like, I have a shape in this cell, a shape in this cell, and then maybe I want to create a header and I want to drop that header to span these two items. Doesn't work yet, but we are working on that feature to allow you to take an object that fits in a cell and then just drag and have it span multiple shapes. So kind of like the merge feature in Excel, if you're familiar with that. This is a follow-on feature that we are working on.
Fantastic. And as you're covering that, just a question on my end, I'm curious, excuse me, is there a way for us to, on a shape by shape basis, unapply the assisted layout for that shape? Like, can I take the data trapezoid and or parallelogram, and can I make that not assisted layout applied?
That is a great question and a really cool request. We do not support that right now for the container. If it's an assisted layout, that is a global setting for that uh, container area. So we don't support like having a floating shape other than, I mean, using kind of the this annotation mode. You can kind of move things around if you want it to be more freeform, but yeah, if the container is in the mode, everything inside of that is in assisted layout mode.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up here, y'all. Thank you so much for asking so many amazing questions. I think we probably answered about half an hour-ish worth of questions, and thank you for letting me ask my question at the end. And thanks to Jimmy and the rest of our Lucid team for being able to present this here today. So again, as a reminder, you're going to get an email with the recording and all of these resources that you need in that one email that you used to register for this event. And my ask for you is try this out. Let us know how you think it works in your teams. And please use that product feedback box in our community. You're going to get a link to that. And please let us know. We want to hear your feedback and how we can make our experience the best for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. It's not just me, Jimmy, but you have the entire Lucid team, whether it's engineering, marketing, product, UX here to support you. So thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy a wonderful weekend. Take care.
Thank you all.